Okay, awesome. We'll let everybody come on in, and we can give people like two-ish minutes, and then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
Cool. Hey everybody, thanks for joining. If you just heard me just a second ago, um, we'll start in just a few minutes. We'll just let folks kind of trickle on in. Okay. Um, yeah, so this is my first time hosting on Hawaii time. That was definitely a learning curve for me to communicate with everybody and remember there's like a few hours in between. So this is definitely like a later like dinner and learn for some of our normal audience members. So we're really pumped to be able to post it in this format. And we've got about 13 folks here, so I think we can go ahead and get started. That's a pretty good group. Um, and others can trickle in as they need to. So let's go ahead and get started. Um, Hey everybody, I'm Haley with the National Farmers Union, and I'm a food safety project coordinator with our project, which is called the Local Food Safety Collaborative. And I'm thrilled to join you today to talk about a specific, special Hawaii edition of our Lunch and Learn series. As you heard me mention, this is our first time hosting on Island Time and the first time working with folks in Hawaii. So we're really excited to feature Joey and Josh today. We're going to be featuring Joy Uka. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Olga, but
Oka?
close.
Oka, pardon me. Joy Oka and Josh Silva. Joey's with the Hawaii Produce Safety. Uh, he's a produce safety program manager with the Hawaii Department, excuse me, the Hawaii Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. And Josh is an assistant extension agent with University of Hawaii Cooperative Extension Service. Does that sound right, y'all? Or do you have titles? The good? Cool. So together we're going to talk about some specific food safety training and concerns about Hawaii. Josh and Joey are both experts in their field, so we're going to talk about a lot of the different available resources and considerations. Um, I see a lot of people who are tuning in, possibly from Hawaii, and if you're tuning in from the States, hopefully this will be offering you some practical guidance or some new things to think about if there's anything that resonates. So I'll stop there. And just some housekeeping. If you're watching and you've got a question, feel free to use the Q&A function here in Zoom. It should be at the bottom on your little bar. And then I will go ahead. I need to fix the chat here. I'm going to open up the chat too. So if you want to call or if you want to chat in and say where you're tuning in from while we get started, that would be great. And the chat should be open. So with that, I'll let y'all take it away. Thanks so much, Joey and Josh. Feel free to get us started.
Yay, so are we seeing the right screen?
It looks good.
Okay. All right, so thank you again, right, for having us. I'm Joey, and a partner here is Josh. Just gonna roll right into it. All right, so just want to go because right, this is a national webinar. It's gonna go over a few things that are fun about farming in the tropics. All right, so Hawaii generally is about 4 to 5 days away from the continent, US by boat, and about 5 to 6 hours by plane, right? Although we know that that's the express route for the boat, and it can actually extend up to several weeks. So with high demand and generally low supply, and potentially multiple shipping costs, especially if you're a non-Oahu resident, right? Everything is more expensive here than the national average, right? Including land price per acre, electricity, gasoline, water, and of course, pesticides. Lastly, we also face the risks of hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and other natural disasters, in addition to our tropical climate. So this allows us to grow year-round, but denies us that cold snap to kill off any of our resident plant pests. So just a brief overview, right? So Hawaii is special because small family farms we recognize are still viable, and they produce a wide variety of tropical, traditional, and regular crops year-round to be sold locally on island, inter-island, and to the mainland. When you look at farms by value of sales, so 75% of our farms make less than $25,000 a year. And by size, you're looking at 90% of farms that's actually less than 50 acres, so relatively small compared to the mainland. When you look at what we grow, right, so of course the seed crops are going to be on there, but in terms of what we can actually consume, right, so we have cattle, coffee, algae, and then I circled the ones you can eat raw. So mac nuts, basil, right, lettuce, and of course our taro, which we'll talk about more later. And then we have our top crops by acre, right? So our mac nuts and our coffee are going to be, right, what we're known for, those regional specialties that you buy to take back to your loved ones. But then, of course, 93% of our farms are family owned and operated. Come on. Okay, so there's some unique diversified egg crops you can find in Hawaii, especially if you go to the farmer's market, right? So we have the peanut butter fruit, the Buddha's hand, which is a citrus. We have our tamarind, japoticaba, which is kind of grows like on the actual branches of the tree instead of like its own isolated fruit forming, which is kind of interesting. And then this is rambutan. This is not lychee. All right, so some interesting Q&As I've had previously about this, but Hawaii also does grow quote unquote normal crops, right? So you think bananas, papayas, green onions, cabbages. Uh, but we also have our culturally significant crops, right? So we have taro, otherwise known as kalo, and it's just I work under food safety modernization and produce safety rules, and I see these things, covered crop, but it's um, usually given a commercial exemption. This is because while you can grow it wetland, dry land, as you can see here in the wetland variation, it normally is steamed and pounded into poi, which is what you can see here. This is because the local Hawaii varieties that we grow have that calcium oxalate levels that can be harmful to health if you do consume this raw. And another culturally significant crop, right, we have our breadfruit, otherwise known as ulu. So this is, right, again, under FSMA PSR, what we consider a covered crop. So you can eat it raw, especially when it's very ripe, but the value added component has actually been making waves recently, right? So you have hummus and you can deep fry it to make chips. But what is something that we do send to the mainlands? One of these things is called heart of palms, one of our non-traditional examples here, and it actually does just look like a little palm tree. Right, so you grow your palm tree and you can cut it. It's not every palm tree, mind you. Right, so, but you grow it, you cut it, you core it, um, and then you can actually find it in the store, right? Heart of palm, or I know some of our guys they ship it to the mainland, still fresh. Thus, you can have it in, for example, restaurants without it going through the canning process. And we see it mostly as a good substitute for vegan or vegetarian meat options. And there's not really a Hawaii market, although I know some of our farmers are trying to change that. Currently, it's mostly exported to the US and the EU. Just to give some geographic reminders, right? So Hawaii, in terms of width, is actually comparable to the state of Washington and the state of Colorado, but we are 10 times smaller um, than state of Washington in terms of land mass and 16 times smaller than Colorado. Yeah, so we're comparable to other states, but again, right, we're not drivable as we have ocean in between all of our land masses. And lastly here, finishing up, we have some, I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but different farming ethnicities in Hawaii speak different languages, right? So we have, of course, our most common with the Chinese, both the Cantonese and the Mandarin, English, of course, Ilocano and Spanish, Tagalog. But we also have our other Asian languages, right? So Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese farmers, our Thai and our Laos. And we actually have splattering, not too common nowadays, but there's also some European farmers here too. We do have some French and some German farmers, but they are generally going to be on the older side. But this is one of our biggest concerns, right? Because how can you provide food safety education in only one language when you know your farmers speak such a breadth and scope of languages? From there, we'll turn it over to Josh.
All right, on. Thanks, Troy, and good job. And yeah, just going back to the other point about the different ethnicities of farms, but so that's another thing that we try to focus on here in Hawaii is some of our educational outreach programs that you know we do as much as we can to make it understandable to the different farmers groups. Okay, next slide. Sorry, Joy's controlling my slides, so you hear me say that a lot. So next one is animals on the farm. So we know, yeah, next slide. So we know that the animals and their poop are another source of contamination, their droppings, especially, but even them rummaging through the crops, getting on top of it, always pose risk to crops. And especially for the produce safety rule, things that we commonly eat raw, that's the ones that we definitely want to target. So next one. So in Hawaii, we see stories like this in the news all the time where either on Maui, Lanai, or places that do have deer, that they're a very problematic animal in farms and gardens and neighborhoods where they, just go through an area, chew everything up, and it's very difficult to keep them out because they can like leap very high. So you would have to install deer-proof fences that are much higher than the regular like 5 foot, 6 foot type. But even then, I've heard of some stories where even the excessively tall deer fences, they can sometimes get over those too. So it's a very big problem. As well as on almost all the islands, you hear of feral chickens becoming a bigger concern where they're not only a problem in farms too, but in residential neighborhoods. So there have been programs and just activities that people have done in these areas where they might work with their local hunter groups to try to do eradication dates or just allow them access to try to eradicate populations. The certain counties they've had some eradication programs like for the chickens, but those haven't been as successful, I think, based on some of the numbers. But I'm just showing that they are trying to do things, but it is very difficult to keep wildlife out of areas that we grow our produce. Next slide. And it's also tricky because we do have endangered species that interact with places where we do grow our produce. So there have been stories in the past, and it's still happening, but they kind of worked around it where you have endangered wetland birds. So the nene, the io, the alaiula, these different kind of wetland birds that are protected federally. That it's been difficult for farmers to grow their crops because these birds they can damage and or eat the crop sometimes, and it's they can't shoe them or they can't definitely can't kill them, but they can't chew them because that's considered a certain definition of take. So they would have to just allow it to happen, but there are some strategies that they have been incorporating and to kind of get around this, but yeah, this is kind of difficult. If they're there, you've kind of got to just work with it and let them be there until they fly away. Next slide. Yeah, so one of the main things that we've at least emphasized, aside from trying to trap, trying to keep them out with fencing, doing decoys, these kind of things, is just always do your pre-harvest assessment. So as long as you don't harvest what do you call it, edible portion of the crop that's a covered commodity by the produce safety rule, as long as you don't harvest that has feces on top of it or is suspect, given these other signs of animal intrusion, that's the main thing. We don't want to send that kind of product into market and that risk and that contamination goes with it. Next. Another big one that we have here too that is a concern in Hawaii, particularly for the wetter areas where you oftentimes find higher slug snail populations, but is rat lungworm disease. So if you're unfamiliar, rat lungworm, it's a small little nematode shown here that it completes its life cycle in the rats, but when rats poop and the slugs and snails eat that poop, it's a carrier now. So if the slugs and snails then get into our vegetables, and that the person or people that are consuming that vegetable, they don't do a good job of inspecting or washing or keeping the slug out of it, because even the slime is a carries a certain amount of that rat lungworm inside of it, and a human ingests it, then that rat lungworm can cause a whole range of problems where basically if it makes its way up into the brain, it starts to eat away at the brain tissue and cause excruciating pain, and that lasts a lifetime. So this is something that has been in the news for a while, but every so often, every year, every other year, you hear of cases popping up of individuals and communities getting this rat lungworm disease. Yeah. So next slide. So one of the main things we try to teach, at least for this one, is, no matter what you're growing, always inspect, inspect, inspect. So from the farm or the garden side, inspect places that they like to hide, like water hoses, make sure it's covered, sealed properly. Use traps and baits to try to minimize their population or entrance into certain areas. And definitely the harvest part, as well as for the community that that is consuming the product, the consumers, that they inspect it in their kitchens before they ingest it, because they can hide in every little crevice of a lettuce or a cabbage. So just want to make sure you inspect it, and if you do find it, just run it with clean running water and a gentle rubbing of your fingers to dislodge it. Next slide. Okay, so another thing we try to emphasize too is soil amendments. Not as big of an issue as wildlife, but still we discuss that in our trainings. So next one. So soil amendments, either raw manure or products from animals, their waste, they can be a good source of nutrients when used appropriately. They're good, can be high in nitrogen, phosphorus. They're carbon based, so they always add organic matter to the soil, which is great. But then because they do come from animals, they can be sources of pathogens. Yeah. So next slide. So one thing that we try to teach, I know some farmers here in Hawaii that do it, but it is a very laborious process to do among all the other things that farmers need to do. So this is especially important for some of our other Pacific islands that we work with. So places like the Federated States of Micronesia, Samoa, where they have this animal waste product, and they rather than it polluting their water, those kind of things, they want it to make it into a product. So we've done different trainings for composting, how to use that properly. So um, you can do it for aerated, static, or turn kind of methods, but at least as long as you get those high temperatures of 131 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit over so many days, and in certain turnings, depending on the method, that's adequate to kill the pathogen. So this is the kind of things we try to preach if people want to use these animal-based animal biological soil amendments of animal origin in their production areas. Next slide. Another amendment that some growers are utilizing is what they call Korean natural farming or natural farming, where they have a lot of different recipes, and it's all about trying to produce, or at least part of the recipes are producing indigenous microorganisms or these different microbes from products that are either readily available or from their specific areas. So it can, it has a big biological component to it. Some of these recipes, which is great because that does help stimulate the soil, help to mineralize nutrients to get it more readily available for the plant. There's also studies that show that it can help to compete or outcompete certain pathogens that do affect crops. But next slide, because it is biological, if there are the wrong types of microbes, specifically like E. coli and salmonellas in them, and some of these recipes, they do call for adding additives like molasses and sugars that boost microbe growth in populations. If you do have some of the harmful ones in there, there's studies that show that they also do increase exponentially with these recipes. So if growers do use Korean natural farming or natural farming recipes, we try to recommend a couple of things. So one is if you are going to make that into an agricultural tea, which people like to do because it's easy to apply, make sure that for one, you have clean water that's pathogen free, as well as try to use only treated materials. So that way, something that's been a temperature or treated in some way to reduce pathogens. So that way it doesn't have a chance to grow in that solution and brewing, as well as don't add additives. Or if you're going to be using it for, you're not going to be using an untreated method, that you only apply it to a non-edible portion of the crop. So you can add it to the soil of the roots if it's a tree crop, or you can add it to the leaves when there's not flowering or fruiting, those kind of things. But yeah, just main thing, don't add it to the edible portion of the crop, and you should be okay. Okay, next slide. Oh,
Okay.
back to Joey.
Trading back now, all right? So we're now be looking at water, right? So FDA, if you've been keeping up with it, has last year, right, they released their final rule on the pre-harvest water section, and they've started doing educational inspections. I'm sure your state may have as well. But uh, as Josh mentioned earlier, right, so when you do your any type of growing, right, be sure to check not only your agricultural water system inspection, but also your overarching egg water assessment. Specifically, we're looking at those slugs and snails right in the water piping and other small fittings where they can get into. SWOT testing is not required for your pre-harvest water, right? It is recommended, is required, pardon me, for your post-harvest water, and we recommend testing your egg water in general, just as if you don't know your baseline contamination risk, you um, should test your water, right? So Maui, Oahu, and the Big Island have testing labs that accept other island samples. For example, if you live on Kauai, which doesn't have its own designated testing lab, at least that I'm aware of, it may be out there. So we have here, do not use untreated surface water for harvest and post-harvest uses because many of our farmers are on catchment water, right, which is considered by the FDA to be surface water. So some ways to keep your catchment system clean and debris-free includes, right, trimming the foliage around your catchment system and installing screens or filters for wayward leaves and birds. So to use catchment water for harvest or post-harvest uses, for example, to wash your hands or to rinse your produce, the water must be treated. And how do you do that? Well, to treat your water, right, common options that we can find in the islands include PAA, right, chlorine, your ozone. Oh, sorry, that's not ozone, that's UV, or your quats. And then just remember, when using any type of pesticide or pesticidal device, all right, follow the label as the label is the law. When monitoring your treatment, be sure to use your proper tools. Your free chlorine strips is generally going to be what we see here as it's cheapest. If you're making any type of solution, right, be sure to use a proper measuring cup. And then if you do have UV, which we are seeing become more and more popular, built-in inline UV systems, make sure that the person you're working with to install it has calculated the proper flow rate versus exposure time for your water hardness. And then Josh.
So, another type of growing system that we do have includes wetland systems, like we saw in that previous slide with the endangered species where they were growing taro in a wetland system. But still have to be careful with these kind of growing areas because depending on conditions, rain, those kind of weather environments, they have potentials for leptospirosis whenever you work with in areas with fresh water. So we have had cases recently where individuals did contract leptospirosis from being in fresh water. And especially when you have cuts and scrapes, those kind of things, that's an easy way for that organism to enter the body and infect it. So next slide. So leptospirosis, just a review, whenever animal feces get into water and contaminate it, and from urine, and you work in that area and you have cuts inside of it, whether it's for recreational activities or for working in a wetland system, that's how that can get into your body. Okay, next slide. So just some other things that we've been suggesting to farmers for outreach and anyone just avoid fresh water working in it, especially if you do have open cuts and sores. Try to be do other types of works that don't involve you getting to the water. Definitely do not drink pond and stream water without treating it. This goes back to Joey, protect catchment water collection systems, control rats, mice, or wildlife animals. To control them or just deter them to keep them away. If you do have to get in, try to wear as much protective clothing. that is waterproof as much as possible to prevent it from getting inside, and then wear gloves when disposing of dead animals, and then try to if you do, then do some vaccination too. But main thing is try to avoid getting that water onto your body and onto your skin, especially if you might have cuts and sores on top of it. So next slide. So harvest and post-harvest handling is another kind of the last step of the growing process that we do work with growers. So next slide. So for one, like Joy mentioned in the earliest slide, Hawaii and all the other kind of Pacific areas that we do work with, they are remote, so it can be very difficult to get supplies to those islands, especially if it's just one farmer ordering something and they gotta wait for the boat to get there. So one strategy that people do utilize is just try to purchase online as a cooperative, so order in bulk as much as possible, and that way everybody can divvy it up once it does get there. And if it is difficult to get some sanitizer products like chlorine or PAA at the time, and you do have to sanitize at least for smaller types of equipment and tools, pans, harvesters, those kind of things. If you can't get the chemical sanitizer, you can try the hot water sanitized bath. So this is what has been doing in the processing side. So at least to 180 degrees Fahrenheit or hotter, and you have to let it soak for, I think it's like a minute or two, but just to get that heat to be able to kill whatever pathogens might be there if the chemical solution is limited. So next slide. Okay. Okay, so another one too is that single-use liners, they are a great thing to make sure that to prevent cross-contamination. It's always in your best interest to try to wash your bins and your crates as much as possible, but just to add one more layer of protection, try to use single-use liners. But as I mentioned before, sometimes it's hard for these remote areas to get these plastic single-use liners, as well as like the waste that comes with using it afterwards. So there are some communities that they've actually used leaf liners for their cooking, their storing, their handling, and it serves a pretty good purpose. But the main thing we just try to stress, and they try to do too, is just make sure there's no animal poop on top of it, and as much dirt as possible is removed and rinsed off. Try to dedicate one side that would touch the crop or the food, and then the underside can touch whatever surface might be. If you have to work on the ground or if you work on a table, as long as one side, the clean side, is for touching the food, and if possible, rinse with whatever cleanest water you can have available. Next slide. Get back to Joey.
Okay, so now we're just gonna go into a little what can Josh and I provide for you guys as Hawaii farmers. So one thing, if you are a quote unquote covered farm with no exemption under the produce safety rule, right, it is required that someone on your farm take the Produce Safety Alliance growers training. So we present that jointly together for you guys, perhaps in a 1 day course or over 3 days via Zoom. And you must be present at all times for the certificate. It covers a whole range of items, but the certificates never expire, right? They stay with the individual, not the farm. And then if there's ever updates to the rule, for example, I just mentioned the water update that FDA put out, the national organization, the Produce Safety Alliance, will provide webinars, or if for whatever reason they're unable to, right, will provide the webinars locally, but they've been really good in being able to hit all the different time zones. And then another option, right? So that was the classroom portion, Produce Safety Alliance growers training. The next step on the screen now is the on-farm readiness review. This is just kind of like a step 2. So you took the classroom knowledge, but how did you then apply it for your farm? This is a free educational farm visit where we then come out to your farm, address your one-on-one concerns. Every farm is different, topography, what you grow, your water source, distribution system. What fur animals are around your farm, right? So we try to best craft it, the experience for you as best we can. It's confidential. And we only ask for your time, no charge there.
Oh, and then for our program too, we have various information available. So we have publications either through CTAR publications website, or if you're not subscribed yet, we have the Hanai newsletter that the SOAP program runs. So it's sustainable organic agriculture program. They have a newsletter every quarter, and we publish some food safety articles inside of there too. We have videos on our CTAR website or also my YouTube page that we produced in the past. And then we just do various public outreach, education at different events. Like this is a fun glow germ activity to double check how good your current hand washing technique is. And after you wash your hands, you go under this UV blacklight and you can kind of see the spots you might miss. And now you know what spots to improve on for your future hand washing.
Just some resources, disclaimers, and then that's it for us. Thank you guys so much again for having us.
Thank you all so much. This was so informative. Somebody who has just taking the produce safety training and is now a trainer. It's really cool to see just a different environment and how these things are applied. I want to talk a little bit more, and I we see we have some questions, so let's go to those first, and then we can chat a little bit about what we just shared. But looks like somebody had a question. They mentioned that the Department of Health held a meeting in June and approved all revisions related to new cottage food rules, which was passed in 2024. So this was a big sweeping cottage food rule. And the rules are now awaiting the governor's signature. Changes are critical for farmers and food producers. So uh, how can the Department of Agriculture support getting this signed by the governor and implemented as soon as possible? Can farmers act under these new rules now?
So this is a Department of Health question, right? As this is their right legislative stuff. So I can only say that the state in general has some initiatives going right to help the value added guys like upscale and be more productive. They have oh, what did we just go and see last week? At least on Oahu. Sorry, that's where the office is based, but I know they have they're trying to promote this style of value added commercial shared kitchen to the neighbor islands as well. I know they have one on Maui, and I know they have one planned at least for Big Island and Kauai, right? So high pressure processing um, is kind of one way to bring in the food safety realm into your cottage food exemption. So I've talked with Department of Health though, and right again, right, we do have to await the rule change, so you should follow the currently existing rules at least for now, as
Yeah,
best guidance.
yeah.
Anything, Josh, for that or?
No, that's your realm is more at that than me. So,
Well, I think that answered their question. So, um, someone asked, when is the next growers food safety training?
So Josh and I have been planning, talking about planning. We're thinking about doing a online Zoom one next, right? So that's statewide access. Anyone can join, prioritizing Hawaii farmers first, right? And then opening it up later, if we have additional seats to any mainland crowd guys. We're looking at fall to early winter, but we haven't knocked down a date yet.
Okay.
but when we do announce it, we'll make sure to share it with Farmers Union too, the flyer, so that way it can get out there. So do that.
Yeah, please do. That'd be great. And local food safety is going to hopefully be working more with Hawaii Farmers Union in the future. So, hopefully we'll be able to share all that out as soon as it becomes available. But another question from a viewer is they mentioned, I harvest fresh fruit, mango. Is there a solution? I should be washing my fruit prior to packing?
So I can answer first and then Joey can chime in after. But so it's not required to wash your fruit before you pack it. You can if you want to, but if you do wash it, there's two things to consider. So one is if you have it as a single pass or you have like a hose and then you have a perforated table or something that you just shoot it and the water doesn't collect, it just drains right to the ground. You can have that method where you wouldn't need sanitizer involved. But then if you do have a dunk method where you have all your mangoes and you dunk it into a bin and there's, you know, multiple batches of mango getting into that same bin, then because that water sits, you would need a sanitizer. In that case, check with your local chemical supplier, like fertilizer company, on what they have available. But there are, like, just throwing out some names, like if you're going more chlorine base, I think hypochlor is the one that we have available here on Oahu, and then Sanidate is the peracetic acid or PAA one that is available too, that a lot of our organic growers do use. So if you are organic, then yeah, you can't use chlorine. You would have to go the PAA route or some other route like UV.
No, that was great.
Yeah.
And then for Brad, oh, this could be a 20-minute discussion, right, of exemptions and exclusions and who applies. But no, I guess the short answer is no, not all farms need to take the course. It's recommended that all farms do, right? But as the law states, no, it depends upon, you know, how much you grow and who you sell to and even what you grow. And if like what is the end result of that produce item, right? Is it for fresh sale? Are you gonna cook it or can it or steam it? Is it gonna be commercially processed, right? So there's all these questions. And then we can talk more, Brad, specifically about your situation, if you are interested to see if the rule applies to you, and if it does, do you have to take the class?
Yeah, something I feel like we talk about amongst food safety people is like often the answer is it depends, and there's never a one size fits all approach, but that is the difficult thing about the grower trainings is they are voluntary, and the more that we can encourage growers to do these practices and take them on, even if they are exempt farms, you know, ideally the healthier of a community we're creating for our small growers. Um, and if you're not sure about a grower training, or you're not sure what the grower training is, please follow up with us, or please follow up with Joey or Josh if you want to get more info. Um, it also looks like, yeah, just a few more things here in the chat. Yeah, so there's a question here about schedule. So someone's been trying to take the food safety class for about a year, but there's no set schedule. Or there's conflicting. So yeah, it's hard with the PSA trainings. And I imagine too, being in Hawaii too, since it's a little bit different of a schedule than the folks who are programming in the Northeast, that there has to often be more closer communication channels for Hawaii specific growings. I'm not sure if this person is in Hawaii or not, but if there's anything you guys have comments on about scheduling trainings, definitely
Maybe
chime
just
in.
one more is it's always hard to schedule, but if you are in need immediately, you can also look at the, I think they still have the Produce Safety Alliance website where they do list their grower trainings across the different regions, and I think some might still be online that are available. So you can also take it in another region or state if they do have that virtual option, and you know, that's a possibility too.
Wait, let me
Definitely.
see if I can find that
Okay.
the listing.
It looks like someone just dropped it into
Yeah.
PSA. Thank you, whoever did that. Yeah, so PSA, Produce Safety Alliance is through Cornell University. That's a quick way to look it up if anybody who's viewing is unfamiliar. And that link is just dropped in the chat. And we've
So
got, oh, go ahead, Joey.
just want to say that one thing. Right, so we're not the only guys that offer this, right? This is a nationally standardized course, right? We try to offer tips and tricks for the Hawaii guys, right? Dealing with the invasive, the protected native species, right? Catchment water, all that kind of stuff. Especially as it relates to us, right? The taro commercial exemption that we try to give all the taro growers, right? These kind of things. But it is a national standardized training. If you take it from anyone, the certificate is good, right? We just say, you know, watch out for the time zone difference. The price listed, if you do take it from an out-of-state person, you know, may not be the price you pay, might be a little more expensive. So just be sure to watch for that as well.
Yes, that's a pro tip. You don't have to take it just with the state you're in. You can take it online, or you can go to another state if that's accessible for you. There's a lot of options available. Well, we've got some more time for questions. Anybody in the audience have any last minute questions they want to chime in with?
There was one more that was asked earlier too. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
from Santorino, but just double checking, Joey, the on your website, the list of water testing labs, they're pretty current, right? For especially the Big Island.
Uh, I last checked it last year, so don't hold me to it, but they should still be like
Yeah.
functional businesses.
So I'll put that link in the chat just for the Hawaii participants. But um, this is Joy's program website. I think posted, but yeah. If you scroll down on this page a little bit, you'll find a list of water testing labs that are at least in each county. It is difficult, some islands specifically might not have, but yeah, you can look at this website. And if you have questions, yeah, let Joy or myself know. Okay.
Well, great. Thank you for addressing that. So there was question here. So um, I wish the Wahioa, sorry,
Yeah.
okay, Wahioa Value Added Product Development Center was more promoted to small farmers on Oahu. I'd love an open house type event to visit the facility.
Well, I don't want to say they've been promoting themselves. Maybe we got to sign you up for the right mailer list. But they definitely have been trying to promote themselves to the smaller guys, and I think they're on their third cohort now of people that come right with their product and then go through their training and right from start to end of. I'm not sure how they run their classes, right? So the Leeward Community College runs that. But can definitely
Yeah, we
see
can
if we
bring
can
it up
get
to
you.
the farmers union, especially because I think they do have, chapter meetings, but they might have like overall farmers union meetings for the island. So, I can pitch it to one of the farmers union members that I work with or presidents that I work with, and then maybe that could be an island-wide farmers union meeting or tour one day.
Yeah, it looks like this person's a member. I'm hoping LFSC will be able to come join the Hawaii Farmers Union for the conference in October. So hopefully we'll be able to come and see what resources are available to share out. But it looks like we're dwindling on questions. I'll give people to think a little bit about this while I wrap up here with Joy and Josh, and just wanted to see if y'all had anything you wanted to plug in your respective businesses, your organizations, your community, anything you feel like is important to share out. Well, we've got some folks here. No?
Can you ask that question again?
Yeah, do you guys have anything you just want to plug in for your community, your organization, anything you want folks to know, or just last minute, notices for folks as we wrap up here?
Uh, Well, I guess the newest thing for us is we're no longer Department of Agriculture. We're Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. You see a lot of changes. Your old links going to anything dot HDOA is probably going to die. It's DAB now. We are DAB. If you have young kids, they make the sign. So DAB. So yeah, that's
Labs.
something to be aware of.
Oh, and then at least from our side for thanks for the reminder that next week, Tuesday, as well as the following Friday, I think, but the Tuesday we're having in-person food safety workshops in Maui County. So I think there's a flyer going on, but if not, it is on the Farmers Union, I think Instagram and network that the flyer's on there. So if you aren't registered, please register with the link there. And then there's another one that will be on Molokai, I think that week on the Friday on August 1st. But yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that out. Yeah, this has been great. I think we can wrap up here. And if you guys have audience members, if you have any questions, oh, we've got one more question. So any resources for on-site cold storage? It's a hindrance to store produce for markets. I also want to say that LFSC, we have a lunch and learn about this topic as well, but I'm curious if you guys have any Hawaii specific tips for this person or anything to address.
Yeah, it's tricky. So I know individuals that they know like an electrician person and stuff like that, where they have solar panels and they connect it to their cooling unit via batteries and stuff like that. But then they also use cool bots. So that's like becoming the newest thing or like the biggest thing over here for like the past few years. But cool bots to be able to make a portable on-field cold storage site. Um, but it does, take money to invest in the facility or the storage unit itself, as well as the cool bots and then the solar panels. But um, that's if you can get it, that seems to be like the easiest way to get on-site cold storage.
Choice and agreement. Um, any grants to cover the cost of food science and technology center crop processing at UH Maui? Did Maui get HPP hyperbaric machine as well, or did Oahu only get it?
No, Josh, do you know?
Oh, that's why I'm making this face. I don't know.
Yeah, so of course you talk to the HPV reps and they say yes, Maui's gonna get one, but I don't know if actually the money is there. So not quite sure what's happening on Maui, unfortunately.
Well, thank you guys for answering these questions. Last one here. So I think Coolbots will ship anywhere. I don't know if they're, usually you have to order them online. I don't know if they're sold in stores. I rarely see them sold. They manufacture them themselves, so I think you have to order directly from Coolbot.
Yeah.
Um, and
If
there
you
are some
send,
good
oh, sorry.
discounts as well. Sorry, go ahead,
No,
Josh.
no, no, I was just gonna say, send me an email or send us an email and we can provide you whatever resources I have. But yeah, it's just, hearing from people here and there. But I do know some people that, especially a colleague that they were playing around with it a little bit, but um you have to make sure you do it safely, especially with all the wildfire type of things we've been, having lately. You just want to make sure you set it up correctly.
Yeah, Coolbot has got a lot of resources in terms of prefabbing, cold storage, creating your own they've got whole fact sheets about what kind of AC units you can use if that's the route you're going to go. But Coolbot is great and they're super helpful and you can reach out to them directly too for assistance. So we like them a lot. We've got discounts for the Farmers Union as well if you're curious about it. So just reach out to some of us. And I will share out with all the attendees here today, Joey and Josh's emails and the last part of their slide. And if it's okay with you, possibly this slide, the presentation from today. This will be recorded, so we'll share that out once it's ready and download it from Zoom with everybody. But that I think we can stop there. Is there anything else y'all feel needs to be covered?
Thanks for coming,
Cool,
everyone, though.
Yeah, thank
cool.
you.
Thanks so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. It's really great to see this training, um, you know, tailor to your community and just give us kind of an idea of some considerations for folks. So we'll stay in touch. And everybody, if you're watching this, thanks for being here today. I'm going to kick everybody off and then just talk with Joey and Josh for a little bit. So y'all have a great afternoon. I'm going to start removing folks. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in. Get everybody in the chat here. Okay. How do I stop this recording? Sure, here we go.